All right, welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Abhi Kaushik, coming to you from Salt Lake City, Utah. We have about 41 participants right now, so let's try to up that number by texting, emailing, calling all of our teammates and letting them know that we have an amazing speaker for the day, and that is none other than Christion Sadler. You know, before getting started with Renatus, Christion was actually in quite a bit of financial scarcity. He was working a daily wage job in steel fabrication and really felt like he wasn't going where he wanted to go. He heard about real estate and the wealth opportunities and income opportunities that it could generate, and started attending different guru events. But you know, as many of you, before getting started with Renatus, if you had tried doing this, you might have felt like you were spinning your wheels, which is exactly what Christion felt like. But finally, he found Renatus and started getting around people that he really wanted to be like. He started showing up early, staying late, and helping out wherever he could. And because of his consistent persistence, he has now been in the real estate business for over 14 years. He's done multiple real estate transactions that have netted over six figures. He's a marketing leader, a PIT team member, and one of the founding team members of Team Elevate. So, you know, I really look up to Christion. You know, he's a top income producer. He's at the high levels of leadership, and he's always looking to add value to those around him. So, you know, without further delay, I'd like to bring online Christion Sadler. We're so fortunate to have you here with us today. Hey, Christion, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Abhi. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Good. Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're starting off these calls, and I agree with you. For each of you guys that are getting on the line, if you're jumping on here at 8:10, you actually miss some really valuable content put together by Bob Snyder, the CEO, and by Woody Woodward with those those videos that Abhi starts the day out with. So just a suggestion for you is, get on here right at the top of the hour, and you'll be able to participate in those and listen to them. And the next thing I want to talk about in today's call is the national conference coming up. This is going to be the last time that I have the opportunity to speak with you before the national conference. And obviously, I'm not going to be hosting this call next Thursday because we're actually going to be at the conference. We're going to be starting things off on Thursday morning. So I want to talk a little bit about nationals. And, I think some people, they hear that and they've been on enough calls recently that they start to tune out a little bit about nationals. And this actually brings me to my first point. So if you're in that realm and you're thinking about stepping off this call, well, hold on a second. Let me kind of prep you for this, because again, you've probably heard this before, but the only event that can be your event is the events that you go to. And if you're getting sick of hearing about nationals, it's probably because you haven't mapped out a clear plan, a clear intention of what you want to get from nationals, what you want this event to be for your business. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a little exercise and I'd like you to do this with me and write it down if you've got the opportunity to do so. If you're driving, obviously don't write it down. Just take your time and think about it in your head. If you're not in a spot where you can write, then and you're not driving, of course, close your eyes. And I want you to just think through this for a second. We're going to give about 3 minutes where I want you to just think about your intention of this this national. And I want you to look ahead 1 year from today. I want you to look at a week from the nationals of 2020. So the nationals of 2020, and you're talking to your team. And you're explaining to them how this event was the turning point in your business that propelled you to the success that you're having now. And I want you to just kind of go through this exercise. Write it down if you have the opportunity. And I want you to explain to them in your mind, and you're going to say it in the future as if it had already happened, of what it was about this event that made it so impactful on your life? So again, we're going to give about 3 minutes, and it's going to be silent on the phone here. Maybe I'll play a little bit of music, but you're going to take about 3 minutes, and I want you to just map out, and I want you to live into that vision of the future. Go 1 year into the future. We're a week before nationals. You're talking to your team members and you're emphasizing why they should be at nationals. And you're going to talk about your specific experience from this nationals of 2019 and what a difference that it made in your business. You're going to talk about the size of your team now and how you started seeing, the rapid growth of team members. You're going to talk about the key people that you met and how those people propelled you forward. You're going to talk about what it has done for your real estate business. You're going to talk about the key mentors or leaders that you were able to meet and build a relationship with. You're going to talk about the inspiration that came from it. You're going to kind of talk about what that did for you and the new habits that you adopted based off of this one event. So again, what I want you to do is I want you to go 1 year into the future. And if this was the event for you, this was the life-changing event, if you were to go 1 year into the future, and this event was such a crutch point in your life, such a turning point in your life, that you are now a better person because of it, what would that look like? And how would you explain that to your team members 1 year from today? Go ahead. Starting now. You've got 3 minutes. Again, you got about 3 minutes. You're just mapping this out. Sure, I can write that in there for you, Joe. Let me just get some music going first. about 30 more seconds. All right. So bringing you back, finish up the, the sentence that you're on, whatever you're writing right now, just go ahead and finish it up. And so this is the key to any event, is if you don't go into an event with a specific intention, it's going to be difficult for you to figure out what you're there for. And, a lot of it is going to come by inspiration. Don't get me wrong. I mean, much of the value that you're going to gain, you can't even plan for, right? There's going to be people that you didn't realize that you needed to meet. There's going to be, things that are said that you didn't realize that you needed to hear. There's going to be things unveiled about where the company's going that, you had no clue were going to inspire you to that new direction. But, at the same time, you want to go into this event with the intention of making it a pivotal moment in your life, right? I often talk to people when I'm, talking to those who haven't been to nationals yet. And I talk about the fact that it could literally put you 1 year ahead of if you don't go to nationals. So, it's something that I would just say, put it on your list as a no-brainer, not only to be there, but make it such a no-brainer that the people on your team realize that they've got to be there with you. So that's the next thing I want to talk about is, emphasizing with your team. I have never had a nationals where I came out of it and said, I'm disappointed that, that I invited everybody here. Every single time I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish I would have just emphasized a little bit more with this person. Man, I wish that I could have got some more, more of my team members here to hear this and to be inspired by this. And so, do yourself a favor and get rid of some of that regret. It's probably going to be there anyways, because you can't control other people's actions, right? You can't force anybody to make the decision to be there. But what I will say is, do yourself the favor of taking away some of that regret by reaching out to those people. Maybe there's people on your team that you haven't talked to in a while. Maybe there's, people in your life that you haven't even introduced to Renatus yet. And you're thinking to yourself, how could I invite them to nationals when I haven't even introduced them to Renatus? Well, now is your chance. There's actually an offer going out right now, and it ends today, right? Where if you have somebody that enrolls as an IMA, $125 or $197, and they pay it in full, right? They sign their signatures, then they can actually come to nationals for free. Now, they're not going to make it to the awards banquet, which I believe is one of the most impactful parts of nationals. However, they are going to be able to be there for the training. And so what you're going to do is, if you have anybody that from Monday, this last Monday to today, so basically in the last 4 days, that have enrolled as an IMA, and they've paid the $197, they signed their signatures, you're going to send an email to J Stark, J.Stark. And when I say J, I just mean the letter J. He doesn't spell it J-A-Y. It's just the letter J. So j.stark@myrenatus.com. So that's the next thing, is we're talking about getting your team there, but we're also talking about getting your prospects there, getting the people that you love and that you care about there. People that have never even seen Renatus would be willing to pay $197 to be at this event. And really, these people can become key members of your team. So we've done this offer a little bit different every year in the past. What we've done is we actually did it at the Thursday before um, the national conference. But since we're starting our national conference on a Thursday, and we're doing our cash recovery party that night, instead what they did was they threw out this offer to where, anybody that's registered within a week in advance, which is today is your last day. Anybody that goes ahead and registers as an independent marketing affiliate with Renatus within that time frame can come to nationals, to those 2 days for free. Now, some of you might be looking at that and saying, well, that's not fair. I spent $300 to be there. Well, it is fair, because if you're already a member, you should understand the value of this event. I mean, I have spent $10,000 for a 3-day event that was similar to this, but yet not as specific towards my business and my success as the national conference. So if I could spend $10,000 on a 3-day event, I think $300 is well worth it. In fact, I think that if Bob started charging us $1,000 to be at nationals, people would take it even that much more serious about how they showed up and how they engaged. And so treat this event as a $10,000 event. All right. So we've talked about setting your intention. We have talked about getting your team and emphasizing with your team why they need to be there, right? And we actually did an exercise for next year that you could actually take some of those things and use them for this year. And if you need some ammo on that, there are so many of us that have been a part of this business that can tell you a story about national conference and how that story impacted their life. And I'm actually going to use one because I've got many, but I'm just going to use one with you guys today of when I was first starting in the business. Now, many people don't know, but when I first started in this business, it was kind of a rough go. I was 22 years old. I didn't really have much business sense or people skills. I was a steel worker. I was a rough dude. I mean, I used almost every other, word out of my mouth was the F word. And I kind of had a bad attitude about life. I was cynical because I had surrounded myself with cynical people. And this was a whole new world to me. And so I was going through all kinds of personal development. I was evolving as a person. And it was 18 months in that I still was not qualified. 18 months in, and I still had not gotten qualified. And a lot of me felt like a failure. There was a lot of things in my life that just weren't working. I was behind on my bills. I was basically pawning everything I had to make this business work. And this was actually in Bob's previous company. So this was not Renatus. Everything's been, forward motion since Renatus, but working in this same business, same industry. And here I am. The national conference is in Arizona. And I'm here in Utah, and I go up camping with one of my mentors. His name was Chad Wade. He's absolutely an icon of the business. He's since passed away in a plane accident. But we went up and we spent some time in the mountains, and we were just relaxing. And he asked me, he said, "Are you going to nationals?" And I said, "I'm gonna be there, but I don't know how yet, because honestly, guys, I didn't have the money to be there." And he turned to me and he said, "I'll tell you what. If you can figure out your way there, I'll cover your ticket." And that meant so much to me. This was a guy that had tens of thousands of people in his organization. He had no reason to do something like that for me. I mean, it's not like he could do that for every single person on his team. But for some reason, he saw something in me. And so I got to work. And I went ahead and I figured out a way to get there. I actually ended up driving with some other people and pitching in on gas, and I pitched in on a room with a few people. And while I was at that event, while I was there in Arizona, we still had events going on in Utah. And interestingly enough, I had a prospect that showed up. Now, this is somebody that I had never met in person. So I had been working. It's not like I hadn't been working, right? But I had a prospect show up. And that prospect actually knew my 5-star affiliate. And so they met and they connected and they enrolled. Full combo. That was my last qualifying sale. Now I had other people in the pipeline. And so when I got home from that event, I was qualified. Now I was in a position to make the big checks. And sure enough, within a week, I connected with somebody that I had been bringing to different events and I'd been introducing to the business, and they decided to go full combo as well. So now all of a sudden I had my big paycheck, right? It gave me a place to stand. It gave me some ground, to move forward from. And if I wouldn't have made it to that national conference, I believe that I wouldn't have made those extra calls. I wouldn't have pushed myself that extra mile, and I wouldn't have been in the energy that would have brought about that success. Because I came home and I used some things that I learned about conversations at that event in my conversation with those people that I talked to that bought combo after that was my first big paycheck. So again, that's just one story. That was one of my first national conferences. I think it was my first national conference, maybe my second. I guess it was my second, because the first national conference is actually where I bought my combo, is right around the first national conference. So second national conference, and it was pivotal for me. It was a big deal. And so get with other leaders and get stories like that, and use those stories as you're talking with your team. So we've got a question here from Crystal. She said, if it was done by today, they would also get the banquet. So with the free tickets, they're not going to get access to the banquet. As far as I understand, they will not get access to the banquet for the $197 IMA agreement, because they're not actually buying their way into the event. They're simply enrolling as an IMA, and then they're getting free access to be able to be at nationals. However, that brings up a good point. Is if you register for nationals by today, midnight tonight, you can still be at the banquet. But the cutoff is tonight. The cutoff is tonight to register. If you register normally for the banquet, so you go through the normal registration for the banquet, and you get yourself registered, then you're going to be able to be with us at the banquet. If you're not registered, by midnight tonight, you're still going to be able to participate, but you're just not going to get access to the food, because and you're not going to be able to be there with us at the awards banquet, because they have to put their order in with the conference center to make sure that we have a food count and a head count for that event. So as far as I understand, and there is the possibility that I could be corrected on this, but as far as my understanding is, as long as you register normally for the bank or for the national conference by midnight tonight, you're going to be able to get into the banquet. For those people that register as an IMA, then they're going to be able to get their access to the national conference, but they're not going to get access to the banquet. That's what I understood from the founders webinar when Bob Snyder was talking about it. So that's that. Now let's talk about the event itself. We've talked about moving forward and preparing yourself for the event. But
hey, Chris.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about the volunteer party Tuesday morning?
Well, I can't talk about something that I don't really know about. So
okay.
If somebody knows exactly what that's all about, then we can.
Okay, just Michael announced yesterday morning that at 10:30 at corporate, they're going to have a volunteer party all day for people who want to come help get ready for nationals.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they're serving lunch.
So
yeah, those are
10:30.
for volunteers, and you can contact Josh White.
Okay. And is that 10:30 at the
corporate?
At corporate.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. Well, that's another thing to be prepared for in advance of the event, is if you guys are in town early, or if you live here locally, Tuesday we're getting together, and we're going to be getting together over at corporate to set up and be prepared. So thank you guys for chiming in on that. It's good to know. And I'm going to make sure that I arrange my plan so I can be there. Okay, next thing. Now, Bob Snyder actually talked about this in the generally speaking this morning that Abby played for us, which is about how you show up. And this is something that I want you to think about when you're getting there to nationals. Is this is your opportunity to make a first impression with a whole bunch of other people that can be key players in your business. Now, let me point something out to you. Some of you are looking at, the people that you're going to meet is going to be Scott Rowe and Michael Huggins and all these leaders. And I'll agree with you. That is part of this opportunity. But another big part of this opportunity is you're going to meet people that are like-minded, that are like you, that are in a like situation, that are just starting the business, that are going to become those key players, that are going to become those top leaders later on. And this is your opportunity to meet them as they're growing, as they're learning, as they're building, and build those relationships that will absolutely last a lifetime. Now, for some of you, you know that my business partner, Steve Myers, he's kind of behind the scenes, but we've grown quite a business together, and we have a very symbiotic business relationship where everything we do kind of flows together. And I met him through this community. Now, I didn't meet him as a leader. I didn't meet him as somebody that was, the top income earner or anything like that. I met him as somebody who showed up to the office first thing. When I was getting there, first thing, waiting for somebody to open the doors. I met him as somebody who stayed at the office late at night, just like I was when I was first building this business, and I just had nothing else to do except show up and work as hard as I could work and do everything that I can do. And we started to build a relationship that way. We started to, get to know each other. We started to see what each other was working on. We got to understand our philosophies and our mindset and our ideas. And because of that, we figured out that it made sense to do business together. And that's one of the things that you have the opportunities to do for you at this national conference. So think about how you're showing up. Think about your dress, right? Think about your hygiene. And, make sure that you're putting on the best first impression possible. Now, when I say putting on the best first impression, I also want you to be you. I want you to emphasize what makes you unique. So many people know that, something that kind of got bestowed upon me, so to speak, is the Superman brand, right? For some reason, people started thinking about me when they thought about Superman, or Superman when they thought about me. And it started off with, somebody giving me one t-shirt, and it's grown into, you can usually count on, I've got Superman socks or something that is. That's just, it's part of who I am. I've really adopted that. And there's actually a lot of meaning that I've attached to that logo, so to speak. And so maybe there's something for you, and maybe it's a superhero, but maybe it's just something else. Maybe it's certain colors that you really like to wear. Maybe it's a certain way that you like to do your hair. Use that. Use what makes you unique, because that is going to help you in connecting with other people that are like you and that like you, quite frankly. And, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. All right. Next thing is, you're going to want to bring a notepad that is specific for this event. Now, it doesn't have to be brand new. If there's a notepad that you use for all your notes for business, just make sure that you have the opportunity to have specific pages and a pen to be able to take notes at this event. Now, I'm not much of a note taker. I'm not that guy that sits there taking notes the whole day. I'm not trying to dictate what the other person is saying, because the way that my mind works, it's difficult for me to take notes and listen at the same time. But what I will say is there's going to be key moments that you want to write down, either instructions of something that you should do or phrases that you want to keep or whatever that is. And so I would just suggest, make sure that you come prepared to take those notes and to be there for that. Now, the next thing that I want you guys to think about is, how are you utilizing your breaks? Sometimes
with the breaks, people are just using that time to quickly, run and kind of do not even busy work, just kind of meander through and separate themselves from the crowd. And I get it, for some of you, that's what you need. If you're more of an introvert, I'm actually somewhat of an introvert myself. I process things internally. Sometimes it's worth it. And if that's what's most beneficial to you is to, decompress a little bit and get back into it, then that's great. And at the same time, I will emphasize that those breaks and those lunches, those are your opportunities. Getting there early, showing up or staying late, those are your opportunities to really connect with people. This conference is not just about the information. It's about the people and the connections. So I want you to, make a list of some of the people that you definitely want to meet while you're at Nationals. Right? Think about some of those people that you've heard about that are having success, or that, have mastered a certain real estate strategy, or, have a team that's building in a certain way, and choose to take the opportunity to go meet those folks. Even if it's brief, right? Meet those folks. And here's one thing that I've started doing that is working really well. When I meet somebody, instead of handing them a business card, I say, what's your info? I'll send you a text message. So I take down their info, and what I usually do is I actually just go to add a contact in my phone. I hand the phone to them, and I say, type in your info, and I'll send you a text with mine. So they type in their info. Now I know that I have it, right? And then what I do is there's this little option on most phones where when you're putting in their info, you can add a photo. So what I do is when they finish and they hand it back to me, even if they save it, I'll go back into that contact, I'll go to the photo, and I'll just take a selfie with them, right? And then automatically right there on the spot, I just send them a text with my first name, last name, and my email address. And then after the event, because you're meeting all kinds of people and you're not necessarily going to be able to connect with all of them, in deep and meaningful ways at the event. But what I do is when I get home, I just actually go into my text messages and I search my email address. And when I search my email address, it pulls up all these messages that I've sent to other people, with the pictures and whatnot. And so it reminds me of who they are. And it reminds me of, why I decided to connect with that person. And so I'll send them a message. And you don't have to send them all in one day. You can actually break this down to, one a day or two a day or, 5 a day, whatever it is for you. But when you get home, continue that connection. Don't let it stop with exchanging information. Right? If you had a conversation about a certain subject that, that you're both interested in, go find an article, right? Go grab one of your favorite articles, something that you read recently, that inspired you about that certain topic. And maybe it's a real estate strategy, maybe it's knitting, maybe it's volleyball. I don't know what it is. Whatever you guys connected about, and shoot it over to them and start adding value to that person's life. And if you'll start your national conference today by setting the proper intention, and you'll end your national conference never, because you'll continue to build upon it, and you'll continue to build upon those connections, and you'll continue to use the story from this nationals to get your people to the next nationals. That's how you're going to maximize the success of this event. So folks, I hope this was helpful for you. And I wish I had more time here. There's actually more notes of things that I would love to emphasize for you about maximizing the nationals. But the biggest thing that I can leave you with as I jump off this call and get prepared for the PIN Team webinar is set your intention and go into this event with that clear intention. And this can and will be your event, but only if you expect it to be.